I'm your host, Kat Lively, and today I'm going to be taking you to a few westside locations that were frequent haunts or homes of James Dean. As always, if you are new to the channel, thank you for watching. Please comment, subscribe, and like. And if you are a returning subscriber, thank you for enjoying the videos, supporting the art, and for coming back. It means the world. Where to begin with James Dean? Anyone who knows me knows this is not a cut and dry. I can't make a cut and dry James Dean video. He was the catalyst for my podcast. He was the catalyst for my YouTube channel. It really all goes back to him. No matter where it goes back to him. The long and short before the video, I spent some time in James Dean's New York apartment. I have met and interviewed his family. I will include podcast episodes of those interviews in the description below. I have interviewed friends of James Dean. I think I've been to every single filming location, any location that ever had to do with him, from California to New York to Indiana. I've been there, I've done it, I've seen it. Our first stop today is one of the small duplexes that James Dean shared with his friend Bill Bast, whom he met at UCLA. This was after they vacated the other apartment that they had that was on Comstock Avenue. So this would have been around mid-1950 or so that he lived here for a short time with Bill Bast. One of my favorite stories, I'm not sure if it was this place or the place before on Comstock Avenue, but one of my favorite stories about James Dean and Bill Bast was when Bill Bast's mother came to visit and she stayed at the apartment with the boys. She said James Dean was just this utterly kind of horrendous. He was moody, he was kind of mean, he was very off to himself, and he was drawing these really crazy innuendous drawings. He basically freaked his mom out so much. And however, on the very last day before, I think Jimmy and Bill Bast took Bill Bast's mother to the train station, Jimmy ended up giving her a headshot of himself with his autograph, and it said something to the effect of, to my second mother. And his mother, Bill Bast's mother, said she completely melted, and from that day on, she framed that photo and she thought the world of Jimmy. Such a strange little story, but also very indicative of the person that James Dean was. Our second stop today is 601 Galley Avenue. It's the address of the fraternity that Jimmy stayed at for a time when he was attending UCLA. This would have been around September of 1949 or 1950. The classes began at UCLA and Jimmy left his father's. He pledged to the Epsilon Pi chapter of the Sigma Nu fraternity. He took the room at the Sigma Nu house on the fringe of the university in Westwood. He stayed here for about 4 months until he left Sigma Nu after a fight with one of the other pledges. He left an unpaid bill for $45 here. Apparently, he got into a fight out on the front steps with another one of his fraternity brothers because they made fun of his acting. Back then, acting was kind of a girly thing to want to get into, and they would make fun of him for that. And he ended up punching one of the guys square in the mouth right outside on the front steps. And very shortly after that, he left the fraternity, never to return. It is literally directly across the street from the UCLA campus. So all he would have had to do is walk across the street to attend classes. However, he only attended classes for a very short time. It was only a few months. Before that, he was at Santa Monica Community College for a very short time as well. After the Sigma Nu house is when he and Bill Bast ended up getting their very first small 3-room Mexican-style penthouse. It had a ceiling and Aztec decorations, it said in the document. And then afterwards is when they moved to the small duplex that I already showed you. Jimmy moved around a lot, especially in his early years, from moving in with friends to staying at hotels. He had the studio apartment in New York. He was kind of all over the place. And I mean, what can you expect? He was not a successful actor at this time. He was, still trying to make ends meet and make a living, and would often stay with friends and girlfriends. He would go home to Indiana to visit for a while. He stayed with Rogers Brackett on Sunset Plaza. There were many, many places he lived. Our final stop today is perhaps the most sentimental. It's the Santa Monica Pier and Beach in Santa Monica, California. Growing up as a young boy, Jimmy lived with his mother and father, Winton Dean and Mildred Dean, in Santa Monica, California, from about the age of 5 to about the age of 9 when his mother passed away. So he was born in Fairmount, Indiana, but his father took a job around Santa Monica, which moved the family across the country. So they spent a lot of time here at the Santa Monica beach. There are quite a few photos of James Dean as a little boy on the beach with his mother and father and some other friends, I think, of their parents or family members. And when Jimmy got older, there is a photo shoot on the Santa Monica Pier. You can see him at the carousel that I'm featuring in the video, as well as along the boardwalk, standing in front of different shops. Some of them are still the same, some have changed. Obviously, there's still a very vintage aesthetic. It's not very, very different than the way that it was back then, which is something I'm very happy about. So yeah, he spent a lot of time. He would also come out here with his friend Lew Bracker. They would often sit around the beach or find a hidden beach closer to Malibu and sit and talk about life and share stories and things like that. So it seems like, the beach, and especially Santa Monica, was somewhere that was very special to James Dean. Spending time there as a young boy, spending time there as a man, doing photo shoots there. I know there is a book where it mentions Jimmy would go to the beach like in the middle of the night, when a lot of shady characters are around. But he would go out there and he would walk around the boardwalk or the Venice boardwalk and just kind of think to himself and be with himself. Lew Bracker also details in his book, Jimmy and Me, he recounts on their friendship, and he said that he and Jimmy used to go out to this big giant rock in Malibu, and they would sit there and they would overlook the ocean, and they would talk about life and girls and cars and everything else under the sun that Jimmy was willing to talk about. Pierre Angeli, Jimmy's love, also talked about how she and Jimmy would often try to get away from, the studio heads and all of the people who were trying to keep them apart. And they would go